Cartierul Cluj în Chișinău, un proiect excepțional, construit de la zero, care va oferi școală, grădinițe, centru medical, terenuri de sport și agrement, dar și spații comerciale. Cartierul Cluj în Chișinău, locul perfect pentru trai sau investiții.
Dear friends, my name is Pavel Sidorenso. I'm from Moldova, and you can see the first time Moldova another view. This is new program special for Moldova live.md. I'm entrepreneur from Moldova. I have advertising company which do outdoor advertising project ooh.md, and I have internet market raccoon.md, and it's my raccoon Luna, the moon. And we have a project for study education, city business school. This is project for MBA and management courses. And today in my studio we have guest from USA, George
Jadue.
George Jadue. We met with George because I was with my raccoon, and he did it, and he viewed it, and we met. Thank you, Luna. And George, how long time do you in Moldova?
I've been here for about 5 months now.
5 months.
5 months.
Oh. What do you think about Moldova?
Well, first impression, it's a beautiful place. The style of people is something that's very attractive to me. The sense of how they engage and how they are culturally. You know, it's funny. People here complain about the traffic. I don't think it's that bad. I've been in bad traffic, and people complain a little bit about the roads. They could use some work, but they're not that bad. I've been in worse places. Overall, I enjoy it. I enjoy the food. I enjoy the people. I don't have a lot of negative criticism to say about the country.
In your opinion, Moldova have a different mentality from USA, and we now go to the Europe. But a lot of people have Soviet Union mentality. What do you feel? What do you think about mentality now with people which you meet?
You're at a transition point. You know, it's just natural growth. Remember, the Soviet Union hasn't been around in a long time. And you go to some of the old Soviet countries, all of the capitals seem to thrive on commerce and business. There's still a lot of elements from the Soviet times that are in play, but the things that make us similar is a little bit more than the things that make us different. Most people want the same thing. You want peace, prosperity, you want a nice car, get a nice meal, meet a nice girl. We all want the same type of things. What I enjoy here is that the mentality of the people tends to be a little bit more, I'll use the word traditional in my sense, versus some of the issues that are happening in the United States where people have become so fragile about things that don't matter. So Moldova has real problems. There's real economic hardships with a lot of families. Salaries aren't the best, so they have to work aggressively just to put food on the table, just to have an apartment. It's not as difficult to do that in the United States. So I think people have failed in the United States to appreciate what it means to be able to do that. So they invented a few extra problems that people that are busy worried about the rent and the car and the school perhaps don't devote as much time to it. I prefer that style. One of the reasons I moved here is I was concerned with my children being exposed to things that I would consider nonsense. This sensitivity about junk versus practical deals, you know. So I think Moldova, although it's still developing, the people, I find them more unique than just about any other place that I've been. I'll elaborate. Although your sister country is Romania, I found, this is me personally, just my experience, that Moldovans and Romanians have divided a little bit, and culturally how they are. The style feels different. Moldovans are not quite, the Slovak style, but they're not quite the Romanian style. They're very much their own. They have a lot of the Slovak. They're more stoic, and I find them to be a little bit more genuine. Versus Romanians are a little bit more gregarious, a little louder, kind of leaning more towards maybe towards the C style. But Moldovans are not as rigid as some of the other Soviet countries. They're a little bit more open. So I found if you can break in through that first barrier with a Moldovan and they get a hold of you, they just won't let you go. They embrace you and take you in.
What do you dislike in Moldova?
What do I dislike in Moldova? Oh, I do have something. I don't like the negative wordplay you get. So in America, we're very optimistic. We have this problem. I need a certain paper or document signed by a ministry, right? And it's not common. So if I have that problem in America, we think, and who do we get? Is there a process? We change the law. We create something new. We attack the problem and fix it. Same situation in Moldova. I go, I need this paper signed so I can do this. And the response I get, no, it is impossible. And this is the phrase it is impossible. So this is an old Soviet remnants because things were so rigid. The way the American style, we see every problem as just an opportunity to create a new path. One of the literature that I studied is Hannibal Barca, the famous general, Carthage, when he attacked Rome. And famously, when he went over the mountains with elephants, as he was trying to figure out to go around into Roman attack, like, what are you doing? There's no way to do that. And he said, I will find a way or create one. And that's kind of the style of Americans. We'll find a way or we're going to create a way. And in Moldova, no, it is impossible. It is forbidden. No. So I think that's a little bit of growth that has to happen, right? And sometimes they hold on to policies or rules, not even law, but rules that are not beneficial to anyone. They were put in place with a good intention, and now they're just there and they're kind of in the way because the world has grown and those rules are still in place and they're not helping, they're kind of hurting.
What do you think about opportunity now from Moldova? When we met, you said me about in Moldova now good opportunity. Can have your good future.
My sense this is a pivotal moment in Moldova. So I'm not going to delve into politics, but political action tends to be a push on business. It's a fight for resources. So again, I'm an outsider. I am not Moldovan. I'm not going to be as intimate with your history and your knowledge that you are. I just don't know it. But as an outsider, the limited amount that I know and what I've seen, Moldova's had a rough history. There's been significant exploitation, intentional, unintentional, direct, and indirect. So you had certain people of stature take all kinds of money from this country. It's common knowledge, right? This affected the country in a huge way. That was individuals doing that. Before that, countries were doing that, including Western countries. They took access to your seed and soil and screwed Moldova. Moldova had a history of being a medical center, right? So people would come here and get services. A lot of that disappeared, even though you have great physicians. You don't have the resources for nice hospitals, but great physicians. You have a very strategic place, but you lost your coast. This is barbaric. That is a lifeblood to any country. You've been pushed by even your neighbor Ukraine, and you have a lot of similarities. Ukraine gave you a little elbow. Romania gave you a little elbow. The Soviet Union gave you. So Moldovans are like, yes, it'll change. It's different. But this time, it is different. It's very difficult, as part of that pessimism we talked about, for Moldovan to accept that this time will be different. Because the history has shown them it never is. It never is. But let me ask you, you've lived and experienced Moldova as a Moldovan your entire life. I'm sure you traveled quite a bit, but you've experienced everything here. I would argue with you and say that you've never seen as much traffic in the streets of Chisinau as you do right now. You've never seen so much development, fixing the roads, new buildings, as you see right now. I would argue that in your entire history in Moldova, as far back as you can remember, you've never had all of the world leaders show up to drink some wine down the road here, as you did in June 1st of this year. That is monumentally rare. And you already have a significant amount of international groups and community and governments, United Nations, the European Union, the United States, given promissory investments to your infrastructure, to your energy program, to your sanitation programs, all of them to create more of an independent Moldova, to become a trade partner with the rest of the European community. I'm not going to engage in why that is and the rationale of politics, who it helps, who it hurts, but ultimately it gives more access, more business. And the lifeblood of all business is mobility. It's engaging. Now, I'll add one more element to this whole thing. One of the things that I would love to see Moldova be able to do is somehow negotiate access to the Black Sea as Moldovan land. That doesn't exist right now. I think if Moldova had any kind of ability to negotiate, you do have claims to the Black Sea, legitimate claims. You're part of Romania now, part of Ukraine, but you have legitimate claims. But right now, things are in a state of flux. There's a war next door. And now is a time, a key moment, where all of the world players are helping facilitate a negotiation. Moldova's in a key location right now at this moment. This moment will pass. And I think it is pivotally important for Moldova to take advantage of this moment, because they're not going to be so important next time. One of the things that if you could negotiate it, for example, if I was the king of Moldova, my main focus would be to create a deep sea port, not Constanța size, deep sea. In Moldova, between Odessa and Constanța, and I would want a modern railroad to get access to Europe. Now, if you do that, this country changes overnight. Now, all of the shipping lanes that are desperately trying to get your resources in and out of Europe, and even going towards Eastern Europe and even Asia, have an additional deep sea port in a centralized location in Moldova. Your commerce, your industry, your business changes overnight.
What do you think about opportunity investment in Moldova, foreign companies, big companies like maybe Amazon, Google, Facebook, and others?
Well, there's a couple different elements you address with that. When you're talking about investment, first you want to talk, what products do you have and how big is your market to actually purchase the product? So if I'm a major industry, do I want to embed my industry here? I only have a top market of 3 million people. There's other markets that are going to be more lucrative, and that have a lot of restrictions coming in with current laws. This is why the laws have to change to be more in line with the European standard. The other thing that's happening, Moldovan, especially the youth, they're incredibly articulate, and they speak at least, I would argue, 3 languages, but at least 2. And more the youth does speak English, which is the international commerce market. You can argue China is getting to be that point too, but I think English is still a little stronger. I think you also have an incredibly educated populace. Overall, you have an incredibly healthy populace. There is a standard of education that's pushed in this region that's not normal. And I'll give you an anecdotal example. It makes it interesting. So in America, we're a country made of servants and peasants. So everyone in the United States has a cousin that's a doctor, a politician, and a mechanic. We came up with the reason America was so great is because we had the biggest middle class. If you worked hard in any industry, you can have nice money. That was the whole template. And education wasn't that common. Not a lot of people got an education. Even today in America, if you meet someone and you're just having a casual conversation, there's no malice when you ask, did you go to the university? You know, oh, you did? What did you study? This is a normal conversation. My wife, who was of Russian descent, I thought it was quite funny. One of my friends just asked, not thinking there was anything offensive. I said, did you go to the university? And she looked at him. Of course. What do you think? How could you ask me this question? So there's a deep-rooted obligatory necessity for the country, the people, to be educated and receive higher levels of education. There's a pressure, almost a sense of shame, if you don't get it. In America, we don't have that. We don't have that sense. So what does that say? I'm a big business. Okay, so I can come to an area where I have a cheap labor force, motivated labor force, very inexpensive, capable, easily trained. It becomes a great center for production of materials and goods or services. If it's a good market for selling of goods, I'm a little challenged by that because you have these restrictions with your taxes and everything else. And there's a limited market availability. I don't know how many IKEAs you can hold here, right? There's only so many people. But I do see an enormous potential. I don't look at Moldova as, I look at it more as a regional aspect. This could be a gateway to the rest of the region. This is one of the arguments that I've made against any kind of reunification between Moldova and Romania. If that happens, which is an easy route for Moldova to take, if that happens, Chisinau would always be a province of Romania. It'll never be Chisinau, the capital of an independent country. And I think it needs to maintain some of those identities, and I think that's where that business aspect comes into play and sometimes marries over with some of the politics of it all.
We have a big experience. We friends on LinkedIn, and when I saw it, it's fantastic. Which metaphor you can speak about Moldova after all countries where you were? Maybe from nature, maybe from animal.
I believe in this country so much. And many of my friends and colleagues thought it was crazy, but I believe in this country so much. I've never felt safer in this country than I did anywhere else in the world. People are scared about a war and this is going to happen. I feel completely safe. I believe in this country so much I brought my children here. At a time where people are like, maybe we should go somewhere else. What isn't there to love? Your soil is black. You can grow anything. I like the size of your airport. So big airports are always a problem. They always get stock cars in line, a big taxi service. So your airport is just big enough you can get out and everything's on time. On a personal level, I like that your women are still women. I don't know if I can say that properly here. And what I mean by that, I'll give you an example. My youngest daughter, I'm a widower. I don't know if you remember. My wife passed away. And I'm a pretty good papa. I'm a very bad mama. And I don't know how to braid hair. I mean, look at these things, are pretty big. So what do I do for my little girls? I have a son and two girls, to learn to be ladies, to wear a dress, to do their hair. I'm not teaching them. I can't do that. So I studied the world a little bit, and I chose here. Now in the States, every day I would tell my youngest, Sasha, can you wear a dress for Papa? No. Sasha, please, for Papa, wear one dress. No, it's silly, they'll make fun of me, nobody wears a dress, and all these problems. 3 days in Moldova, 3 days. Sasha comes to me and says, Papa, like, what's up? What's going on, babe? Is it okay if I wear a dress tomorrow? 3 days.
And change.
And change. The mentality changed. She appreciated being a girl. Just be a girl. Be happy. So, yeah, for me, Moldova actually represents the America I remember in my youth. It represents the America that everybody wanted to go to. I don't see anything but positive things here. There's growing pains. You know, there's issues. People struggle. but I see a lot more positive than negative. I see a vibrant youth. I see a frustrated youth. They're frustrated. They're eager. They're tired of traveling to another country just to be able to eat and supply their family. Your biggest import is dingy from other countries, right? Your youth goes, we call it a brain drain. Your most talented go out to make money and send it back to babushka and mama, right? I think they're tired of it. I think a lot of people, if things were different, they would prefer to be home, grow their own country, and travel. You know, go to Paris, go enjoy yourself, but come back and have some Zyma. You know, it's good stuff. Good stuff. I don't have any intention of leaving. Some of the restrictions that I might be a little bit limited by is your education process here for the youth. So that's just my personal motivation. It's just the style of things and what's required in different countries. Outside of that, I really don't, I struggle to find negative things to say about your country.
Interesting. What did you think about me when you saw first time me with raccoon?
Well, I didn't see you. I have kids. And Sasha saw you, and that's it. Once she sees that raccoon, everybody's coming over. It was a spectacle. But, we thought it was cool. I also saw a monkey. So I didn't see a raccoon. We went to one of the parks here, and this lady was walking around with a macaque monkey. And I thought that Luna is the biggest celebrity in the country. You had a entourage of people coming at you, like a paparazzi type thing. It was hilarious. And I think it's very clever. It's warm, it's easy, it's inviting, it's easy. And it's an incredible icebreaker. It's really hard to be upset with someone or be angry. You get a little fur ball jumping up and down and you're petting it. So I think it changed the dynamic drastically. I also thought that you were incredibly gracious. I don't know if I'd have that patience where you have a bunch of kids running up and wanting to touch still a wild animal. And they want to touch and hug. Oh, well, and you kept your cool and patient. I don't think I can do that as long as you did. I'd be a little, all right, get out of here, kid.
Luna in the English, the
Moon.
moon. And really, for me, this is a marketing tool, which now member of our family and member of our family, which works like marketing tool. Yeah. And the great, my friends, millionaires, say to me, this is
brilliant
marketing.
Yeah.
Yes,
it's brilliant. I think you can break into just about anything with that. It's so disarming, right? I mean, who could possibly resist? It's brilliant. It's brilliant. I love it.
And only one place where we can't go in Chisinau, but every supermarkets, every shopping Moldova, and all places, all see and smiling, and people really happy when can touch it and do photos. Some people come with us and with emotions. Some other people do secret photo, and it's small raccoon can do happy a lot of people.
It's great. Well, you see it when you walk by. Think about someone that's working at a supermarket, a Kaufland or number one, and all day they're checking in and moving boxes, right? It's just work and work. Robot. And suddenly you see a little raccoon looking at you, coming off the guy's shoulder. It changes everything. It's a shock to your system and something positive. I think it's incredibly healthy. And it's needed. You need these little moments of just joy, little moments of happiness. They go a long way.
You said me about basketball, and can I ask you about basketball and your opinion about Moldovan sport in maybe in future, because little country, we have some winners, the first, second, third places in international championship, and but in the team we don't have a lot of winners.
So I'm probably gonna my view, this is only my view. And again, it's just, I want to repeat it, it's only my view. So people can have different opinion. Let me tell you about your population center first. In the United States, I don't know what the figure is, but at least 50% of the youth is morbidly obese or fat. They're sedentary. They don't move. All of your youth, I'm the fattest guy in this country. I haven't seen anybody bigger than me. So everyone here physically is pretty fit. Now, when you don't exploit this, when you don't give the access and opportunity for sport, kids fall into vaping and drinking and a lot of these habits that are just so deteriorating. It's not just the smoking and vaping, but it also puts you in an environment where it's diminutive. It's a wasted resource. If you just look at a child, forget emotion, forget love. Look at it as a core resource for a country. That's what's going to pay for the pensioners in the next generation. And if you don't protect and develop these guys and they go into misery and sadness, they themselves can't develop, they can't lift up the country. So it's a wasted resource. So, and it's not that it's wasted intentionally. There's just hasn't been many opportunities given out there. Now, when you have folks engaged in sports, I can feel how eager they are. They're starving for real leadership. They're starving for engagement. They're starving for recognition. They're starving for effort and appreciation for what they're doing, and they're starving for knowledge of the sport. That's what I'm trying to introduce. So I joined BAM Basketball, the Basketball Academy of Moldova. And we're competing at the federation, but we have a lot of kids. We have different age groups. We have girls and boys and the whole gambit. And the president, Nikita, his level of passion and devotion for the sport is actually remarkable. He has an incredibly difficult background, personal history, very challenging, broken home, not a penny to his name, but his love and his passion created this entity. He's competed internationally, but he hasn't had the resources, the guidance, or the know-how on how to engage these things. We also, another partner in the team, Sasha, he was like a brilliant mastermind. This guy's incredible. Sharp businessman, passionate about basketball, a little bit more reserved. So Nikita is more gregarious. He's loud, sometimes a little obnoxious, but extremely fun, youthful spirit. And Sasha's the counterpart. He's very analytical, like a sharpshooter, business mind. I guess I'm a little bit of the exotic flavor. I bring a little bit of American flavor to it. And what we've done is we've collected a group of adult men. And we're trying to generate, and I think it's working, a real level of team play. We have guys that are beasts, that are just talented individuals, but a lot of times they worked individually, and they didn't work in a cohesive way, and they weren't appreciated. But all of them, I've seen them as very eager to engage. Now, this can be infectious. If you work hard, I don't believe in fun. I don't believe in fun, especially in sport. I believe fun is a byproduct of hard work. So what ends up happening, if you ever played any sport and you're playing and the other guy's just beating you up the whole time, that's not fun. But if you work really hard and you're really good and you're doing everything feels right and feels good, that's when you enjoy yourself. And I'm sensing these guys, they're working pretty hard and they're starting to get this cohesive sense and they're starting to have fun. Now that's infectious. Because that guy has a nephew and has a kid, and they're seeing it. Look how cool this is. Look at this dynamic. This also becomes a force multiplier. This also becomes a cultural exchange. In our program, how we envision things is collecting a few folks and sending them to the United States for a camp. We've aligned ourselves with another entity in the United States, Dream Basketball, genuine league that were televised in the United States. And they're collaborating. We're creating a partnership with them to allow some of our players to go play over there potentially and vice versa. So it's this really dynamic engagement. We're fledgling. I've only been here a few months, but there's already been some leaps and bounds going forward. And it's beyond BAM basketball. This is a level that hopefully it starts infecting a little bit. My vision for it is I want to start going to all of your schools and getting these programs initiated at, 4th, 5th grade, get them playing. Now, if I get those guys playing and get some coaching in there, by the time those kids make it to the university, you're going to need university competition, so it develops to that level. Once that they're at university, now you're engaging top-level players that have at least 10 years of experience, and now they're engaging at an international stage in a team sport. It's an ambitious vision, but I already engaged with the Ministry of Sports, Sergio. That guy is sharp as a whip. He's really devoted. He wants to get engaged. And he's an athlete too. You could tell that just the way he moves, he's an athlete. So he knows what it means. Now, beyond the actual athleticism and the sport and the camaraderie and the team play and the international exchange, it also develops your mind. It also teaches you principles of discipline, honor, fair play, protection, my colleague. All of these things develop. Rivalries. These are healthy things. This is the fruit. This fruit transcends into other fields of your life. It helps you with your personal relationship, with your spouse, with your neighbor, and with everyone else. And I just see incredible potential in that in itself, beyond all the other elements. So BAM basketball, maybe at the end of this interview, we can put a link and a phone number in the interview. If anybody has questions or participate or want to come check out the games, welcome. It's free.
When I saw your LinkedIn page, I saw you worked in the, if I remember right, in the air security, because I have one competition equipment for airports. For security, this X-ray equipment, we were represented in Moldova, American company, Rapiscan Security, and metal detectors. And before this, you have experienced your first work. It was on the
Board,
yes. And after that, I saw you have experience in a lot of countries in the USA embassies. And which is the hardest moment you can remember it and can speak ever?
That's an interesting question. So, again, relating it back to basketball, I've helped and led and developed teams. So, I've been in very challenging places, geopolitically very unsettled, tumultuous, but I was with a good team. So when you're with a good team, you're still enjoying yourself. Now, I've been in places that have been very settled, like Paris, wearing a suit and tie every day. And it was horrible. So stiff. So it depends on what you're asking. If you're asking which situation I find more challenging, being in a suit and tie in an office setting, that's the most challenging for me. When you're in some of these other places, when I served in Pakistan, Afghanistan, other places like this, there are big things happening. And if you don't engage properly, it could be costly on life. So you're not as concerned with, these fragile feelings that tends to happen. But I'll give you a quick anecdotal example. We had in 2000 and when was that? 2005 or 6 or so. We had the cartoon riots. I don't know if you're familiar with that. There was a satirist, a cartoonist out of, I want to say it was Denmark, that drew a picture of the Prophet Muhammad wearing, instead of a turban, he was wearing a bomb in his head. It was very offensive. A lot of the Muslim world got very upset. And he did this around 1999 or something, the year 2000. And in Pakistan, the leadership there that was against the current presidency, they wanted to create a little bit of a demonstration. So what they did is they pulled this cartoon out of the shelf, and they showed it off and created this emotional fever. So there was demonstrations. And the demonstrations were very strong. The embassies, not just American, but the Canadians and all the embassies were in this enclave, this area, and things got pretty volatile. And they started breaking in and coming over the enclave. So I was assigned to go find people, you know. So two things happen here. First, they go, hey, Jadue, we need you to go out there, go collect all the Americans and all the employees that are Pakistani and bring them in safely. So I looked at him and I go, why do I have to go? I don't want to go. You go. And the guy looked like you, blue eyes and white skin. He says, well, look at you. You look like one of them. I go, they're half my size. I look like I eat them. I don't look like one of them. So that was the first joke. So I had to go get them and then brought them back. Very stressful couple of days. Now, when this happens, they invited we have special teams that come in, high-level trained guys for security teams. And they came to the embassy. The problem is it took them a little bit of time to get there. So things were calmed down now. They could always erupt again, and that's kind of we're there. If we needed support, we're there. If you can imagine if an embassy would fall, the last person that gets on that leaves the embassy is the ambassador, and then a guy like me is right behind the ambassador. We're the last ones to leave. So we don't want that to ever happen. So if things are a little crazy or getting rough, first we bring a little bit of support. Then if the ambassador makes a decision to leave, then we all try to leave as safely as possible. So these guys came. And there was a little restaurant inside the embassy. And we're sitting there eating, and everybody's tired. And I like protein. I'm a big guy, I need steak. So we're sitting there eating. And the guy that came, this guy was very young. Now, very well trained. Great shooter, moved around. Top, great, much better than me. But very young. He wasn't very experienced. And he says, whoa, what we're going to do? I mean, there was hundreds of people. If they come over that wall, what was going to happen? Right? And he's stressed. We call them white knuckles. You're holding on to the armchair and your knuckles are white because you're holding on so tight. So we were there with a couple other agents, and one agent says, I don't know, I guess I'd jump in a car and I'd drive to India. What? And the next guy says, India, you're crazy. I'd hop in a car and I'd drive to China. Over to me, he goes, well, what'd you do? I go, well, look at me. I'd grab a guy just like you and start beating him, saying, I got one. Just to get him to calm down, just to get him to stress. Because if you're always spun up, if you're always like this, when something actually does happen, your head, it just explodes. So those were type of challenging events where you try to just maintain your cool. Now, after the fact, after things come, then you can go back, you have a beaver and go, oh, that was difficult. But during, you just kind of ride it out. Kind of a mentoring thing.
Very interesting. And finally, last questions. Maybe if it will see some companies for investment in Moldova, which 5 recommendations you can do for them? For what they can or must to investment in Moldova?
So, look, the investments that are currently happening in this country, and this is not me, this is what's being pushed by the international community to shore up Moldova. Your energy sector. This is one of the biggest vulnerabilities that Moldova has, and it's a huge amount of development. Now, people get confused when you say energy sector. You think make electricity. Yes, you need to make electricity. But you also need to store electricity. Okay, now we're talking batteries. But you also need to hold the energy. That's different than storing. What do I mean? In the wintertime last year, it cost you a lot of money to heat your home, right? So the problem with that is some of the older buildings here, they're all cement and there's no insulation. So when you start developing programs that or companies that develop solid information or construction, you're actually supporting your new energy market by just providing insulation or protected layers. That's one. Another big investment is doing, and this will fall into the same play, is the environmental. The other one is infrastructure, roadways and access to everything. But infrastructure also includes your water, sanitation, and all of these developmental issues. Then services have changed quite a bit. So Moldova, people keep saying, oh, it's Moldova's. Moldova's Europe. There's no debating it. And every Moldovan I've met have bounced in and out, so they know what it is to live life in different places. And they're quickly growing accustomed to certain quality of services that are rendered. So the level of services that are being offered should start coming a little higher. Some of the transportation services, access services, telecom services and engagement, commerce services, and all of that field is pretty big. I personally would try to align myself more and more with development programs that are being pushed by other countries. You go back to infrastructure, transportation, sanitation, logistics, energy grid, and then consumables. So if you can help with transportation, we talked about a deep sea port and railway, which is not even in the cards for Moldova. But anything that's transportation that reduces cost of your products, it provides more access. The legislation needs to move a little bit faster to make things simpler. So if you want to go buy stuff in Romania and bring them back, it should be a lot easier to help the people consume the goods back and forth a little bit more. Anything like that, I would be focused in heavily. The other one is development of properties, residential and commercial properties. I say commercial, apartment buildings and homes. You're seeing a big boom in that. Anything affiliated with that area, I would be focused in as well. That's pretty good.
George, and a few words about how long are you going to be in Moldova and what are you doing in Moldova, your job function and your job...
So there's a few different projects that I'm looking at right now. I'm kind of investing and moving around in different things. You had one of your former guests. He's kind of one of my partners that we've been analyzing what areas to develop. I'm pushing aggressively. I'm devoting a good amount of time to developing the youth programs, the basketball programs and whatnot. And I'm providing my services as consultation for geopolitical security issues. So there tends to be a resistance with a lot of companies coming in here because they think there's a war and there's this conflict. There's instability with, consider that we're going to lose electricity and power. And these companies, a lot of them need redundancies in place to be able to operate. So that's the core of what I'm doing. How long I plan to stay? I plan on making Moldova my home. I love it here. My only restrictions are personal. I got to make sure that the kids are happy and having access to whatever type of continuing education they need. I'm fairly content with the kind of education they can get here, but you don't have a lot of the accreditations that are accepted in the United States. So, for example, if my kid wanted to practice medicine, the doctors you have here, especially dental work, are world famous. But I don't know if those accreditations are accepted in the United States. So you can get better education and training here, but I don't know if you could practice in the United States where you get better dinghy, right? So these are some of the issues I'm working. But for me personally, I have no intention of leaving here until you guys kick me out.
It was program Moldova Another View. And George, thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you hosting me and inviting me to your show.
Cartierul Cluj în Chișinău, un proiect excepțional, construit de la zero, care va oferi școală, grădinițe, centru medical, terenuri de sport și agrement, dar și spații comerciale. Cartierul Cluj în Chișinău, locul perfect pentru trai sau investiții.